Welcome to Arcade Couch, the best place to chill with friends and get your gaming goodness every Monday. My name's Don Blight, and joining me on the small couch this week, Ciaran Marchant.
It is I, and you know what? Even though it's a smaller couch, it feels roomier. It feels nice. You can stretch out a bit. You know, I don't have to worry about where I'm putting my drink, where I'm putting my chips. You know,
Anytime we do like a show where there's a different anytime I listen when it's just like you or Ash, for instance, and there's always this whole thing where make a joke about the couch being smaller, and for whatever reason you're always like, there's more room for my snacks. But there's never been a discussion about like there being tables or anything in this room.
I know, no, but that's the thing. It's just we're just couches. We're not called arcade couch and table. Like that's not on brand. Okay, yeah, there's no. It's just look. We're just aiming one day for that kind of fantastic furniture, Amart, plush, whatever kind of brand deal we're going to get from some furniture company that doesn't actually know what we do.
Yeah, if that's our only brand sponsorship ever, it's going to be a furniture place for sure. Today on the show, we're discussing Cyberpunk because honestly, if you at this stage, if you're like, I'm sick of hearing about Cyberpunk, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, it's a thing. Look, you have to equal out the amount of. If you're sick of Cyberpunk, you must also be sick of opening Twitter and seeing a yellow image be like the first thing you scroll past with black text, because that's a lot. Yeah.
It's not like people keep pulling these stories out of the woodwork. It's kind of, CDPR just kind of keeps putting their foot in it, so it can't help but
definitely
discuss it. So obviously, in case you don't know, let's kind of go down the line of things that's been happening. Other than the continuing trend of people being disappointed / angry about the game on consoles, of course, that's always the distinction here. Sony has pulled the entire game off the PlayStation Store as of recording, and I highly doubt it'll be up by the time this episode posts again, but which is huge. So on the short statement they released on the PlayStation website says, SIE strives to ensure a high level of customer satisfaction. Therefore, we will begin to offer a full refund for all gamers who have purchased Cyberpunk 2077 via the PlayStation Store. SIE will also be removing Cyberpunk 2077 from the PlayStation Store until further notice. So, there's two things to this. A, in case you're unaware, PlayStation doesn't actually have a refund policy. And I discussed this, I think, on this last week's episode of Platt, that I think that's its own whole topic of Sony should have a refund policy.
I thought they had to. Like, I thought it was very much like, especially with Australian consumer law,
no.
Steam does.
That's the distinctions. So, Steam has a refund policy for everyone globally. Like, they've just got one. I think Xbox has one as well. If PlayStation doesn't have one, but if we're lucky in Australia, so that if you ever want to refund something on the PlayStation Store, in case you don't know this, and you email PlayStation and say, hey, I want a refund, and they say no, you basically just forward that email to, or threaten them to go, just reply and go, hey, I'm Australian. And they will, they'll be like, okay, yeah, because we kind of got it lucky here where we have a board that would be willing to go fight for that type of thing. But globally, there's no refunds on the PlayStation Store. So this is the first time I think I've ever seen them go, hey, yes, we will be offering refunds for this entire game. And the first time I think I've seen them... Well, they've pulled things before, obviously, but this is the first time they've pulled such a prominent big title so quickly after release. And I mean, if you want to compare it to other things that people have thrown around, and, you know, like there's a lot of discussions happening at the moment, is this actually the worst launch of any sort of console game? And to a degree, it's arguable because people chuck out things like Anthem, right? Anthem was a disappointment. It wasn't fundamentally broken. It was never actually taken off the store. Fallout 76, it had a lot of bugs. People still played it. It was never pulled off the store. You know what I mean? Like, this game is pulled off the store. It is kind of a big shocking deal. How do you feel about it?
Well, this week I spent a lot of time kind of doing research and reading, because I know last episode I was pretty ignorant in many ways when being like, well, what do people expect you to work on base consoles for, head? And so this week I haven't really spoke about it much on social media, even though it's been a couple times where I've been tempted to, and just been reading different opinions and reading as many articles and news on this, because I guess I'm in such a weird position as being fortunate enough to have purchased it on PC. I'm like head over heels in love with this game, and then it's like it's so mind-bogglingly kind of, I don't want to say hard, but it's difficult and challenging for me to see both ways about this and kind of understand exactly what's happening for, why people are hating this game so much, because I really enjoy this game. I really love this game and the experience and the stories it's telling. But like reading into it, I do now fully understand what's going on with it, and I fully understand that like this is it's a expectation, and for me as well, it's that honestly the most helpful thing for me this week in terms of viewpoint on everything going on was actually, I don't know if you saw it, Dill, but a tweet from Corey Barlog that happened a couple days ago where he was trying to not help but put a voice to the fact that to make sure people are channeling their kind of disappointment and frustration with the game in the right location, like to kind of direct it towards the like executive leadership and just the leadership at CD Projekt Red, and not be kind of focusing this kind of stuff at the devs.
Is it the one that says it almost feels like people are enjoying piling onto this whole Cyberpunk thing? I feel for all the devs who worked their ass off for almost 9 years. I appreciate your work. Is that the one?
Yes, yeah. And then he goes on to speak a little bit about it when people start coming at it a little bit for it, where he's trying to say he doesn't support management, he doesn't support anything that they've done. He's just feeling for the dev team, and I kind of agree, not agree with it, but it kind of echoes now a sentiment in me that I can love this game and I can appreciate the game for what the version I have, but there's a lot of problems with how it's been done and everything that there's been kind of the way CD Projekt Red has led themselves throughout this period of time. That is a big fuck up.
Yeah, I mean, so not to call out anyone in particular, but there's one thing that was kind of annoying me yesterday was someone I saw on Twitter throwing around the very specific number of why the fuck would Sony pull this off the store when it's playable on 66% of all consoles? Which, if you want to associate, if you want to treat all consoles equally, I guess that maths works, but that's not the reality. The reality is that there is however many PlayStations out there. It's the biggest console out there. It's the one that primarily people, like console-wise, were buying this on. Yep. And so to be like, to treat it equal to the amount of people were playing it on PS5 or Xbox Series X or whatever, those numbers would be small compared to the amount of people that are playing it. Yeah. So,
and I think in many ways, looking at it that way as well is quite flawed in terms of, do you think this backlash would be as bad if CD Projekt Red had just been more transparent during the lead up to this game? If they hadn't done their smoke and mirrors bullshit of, we're only showing the PC game and also people can only use the footage that we're going to give you. Like, if they had just been like, hey, this is the PC game, this is what's happening on consoles, this is what's going on. We are endeavoring to fix this on consoles, but at the minute, this is what it is.
Well, I mean, they plainly at this stage, it seems quite obvious, they should not have released the console version, full stop. They should have just released the PC version. They know they shouldn't have released the console version, and that's the reason they were doing smoke and mirrors and trying to hide it.
Yeah.
Because they knew that everyone was going to hate it, justifiably. Like, they obviously knew that. And I guess they were just throwing it out there hoping for the best. So, I don't, like, even if they put it out and said, like, here, we know it's shit, but we'll fix it later, I don't think that would have gone over too well either, because then a lot of people would have been like, what are we, is this early access? Like, what the fuck are we...
Is it? But that's better than the current situation they're in.
That's slightly better. I still think it would have been it would have been slightly better because people would have been like less smoke and mirrors about it. But
at least people would have the fair warning and be educated about it, I guess, going into it. But then again, I guess you could also then say mass public and general public that buying this game aren't reading reviews or aren't looking into these kind of things to have these warnings given to them. So. It's this game should not have been brought out on console, and I think maybe it should have been okay for them to bring it out on PC if they were kind of wanting to have something come out on the 10th of December and not have everything delayed.
They should put out PC and said, "Hey, it's coming to consoles in March," or whenever that they said.
Yeah. So it's still getting there. Like even then, I think they could have done that. I think maybe Like, they have had to have known, like, back in the previous delays, how bad the console version was.
Well, the funniest thing, there was a quote going around from Old Mate, the studio head, who, like, a week or so prior to launch was like, it's running surprisingly well on current-gen console. And, like, some people have been tweeting that around this week and going, was it like was it though? Like, yes.
But that's the thing where you're like, okay, can you now define the term that you've used as current gen consoles? Because I guess that's then hiding behind just saying consoles in general instead of being specific. And that's what comes in from us, you know, when we're talking about PlayStation 4, what do devs mean in general? Do devs mean base PS4s? Do devs mean PS4 Pros? Are they just kind of wanting you to lean towards there? What are we talking about in that? And I guess that's the differential we might need to start getting in console games in general is defining which version, like which consoles are going to run, or having some kind of it's getting into that change in the culture around like having minimum specifics for a game for console, but it's probably not something that's going to be able to happen that easily.
I just think this whole let's try and make everything work on every console that we thought was going to be what everyone was going to try to do coming into this generation. I think this game being so bad is possibly going to change a bunch of games that may have tried to do that.
Yeah, and even I'm interested to see Microsoft's actual point of view from this going forward, because that's kind of been their platform in general, kind of for a lot of things was. We're not wanting a generation, we're wanting an Xbox family where everybody can kind of play on whatever console they've got. And it's like, well, okay, then are you as a dev team or as a studio kind of producer, are you going to be leading your studios to make sure they are building multiple versions of the game that can be run on your different consoles, or have settings that can be changed for each of your console versions, and then have like a well-communicated and open kind of piece of information to say, all right, if you've got the Xbox One, this is your version of the game, and this is what it's going to run like for you, and have actual obvious kind of differences between each version of the game. It's still the same like product you're not having to buy different versions, but it's just having that, like, it's almost like getting to the point where the settings for PC, where you have to like where it detects what version of like what device you're playing on, and then change the settings to suit that device.
It's funny because I was thinking recently about like when I went from the PS2 to the PS3 generation, and I always remember this game that sticks out to me at the time was this whatever Tony Hawk game it was, and I watched the trailer, I was super excited
Tony
for
Hawk? That was 6, Pro 6 or 7 or maybe 8. It was a Pro Skater. It was a Pro Skater. I'm pretty sure.
I don't remember. Like, you should walk around a city or something. Like it still had like BAM and stuff in it. Like it was kind of like not underground, but seemed like
it must have been Wasteland then.
Remember Mike Valley was like one of the key people in it. Anyway, there was like all these features that I remember watching trailers for and going, "Fuck, I'm so excited for that! So excited for it." I pick up the PS2 version and I could not get off my board. I couldn't do all these things. Like they simply cut like a bunch of the game, and I as at the time someone who wasn't like in depth, you know, like I wasn't reading and watching as much game stuff as obviously I do now, and I didn't catch the memo that game was having a bunch of features cut for the PS2 version and the PS3 version, which I didn't have PS3. So
was it the Call of Duty game that came out mid console generation between the 360 PS3 and the PS4 Xbox One, where the previous generation version only had the multiplayer, it didn't have a single player.
Yeah, there was one like that, I think.
Yeah, I think it was one of the Black Ops. Yeah. No, it might have been a Black Ops campaign. Like it just didn't have the campaign.
So it's like, this stuff has happened. So, but like for a game for Cyberpunk, they've cut a bunch of features to help make it work. With that being too much trouble, I don't know. At that stage, GG. Should they even be bothered making the game for the current gen consoles?
Well, that's the thing. Like, do you think it would have been badly perceived if they had just been like, "Hey, we even though the whole time it's been marketed for the kind of the Xbox One and PS4 brands, just be like, hey, we've realized this game's not going to run on these consoles. We're going to put the PC version out now. We're going to put the Xbox Series X version and the PS5 version out next year, and that's what we've got at the moment.
I think they would have got a lot of hate for it, but it would have been a lot less and paid off better in the long run than what they're currently going through.
And even if, like, we're talking about the fiscal side of things, if CD Projekt Red, for whatever reasons, worried about needing need to start getting in some kind of return on this game investment, it's like your PC versions, you have at least, like, what, Steam had at one point 24 million concurrent users playing Cyberpunk, and that was just at one point. Like, so it's not like your PC sales weren't going to kind of boost or kind of right the ship for a couple months while you kind of work on the console version to get the console version out there.
It's like they're making money. It's selling well. Like it was interestingly the highest selling game on the PlayStation Network. Like they announced that 12 hours after announcing they were putting up refunds. Yes. So that was kind of a funny thing to happen. But at the same time, they're definitely losing the customer support, the brand
They've
name.
Lost the goodwill. They've lost the goodwill that had previously been built up by Witcher 3. Very much so. Which, you know, we don't know how this will turn around, I think, but right now you've definitely kind of stooged up a little bit here, CG Projekt Red, and I think a lot of it is your communication and transparency with the gaming community and just with your audience in general that has just been so poor. Even the fact of, you know, God, this last set of fucking screw-ups could have just been avoided if prior to their press release they had spent some time talking to Microsoft and Sony and been like, hey, we're going to announce...
we do that?
Can we... Yeah, we're going to announce to our audience and say, look, if you need to get refunds, we understand. We've got the pathways. Can you guys provide us with the pathways link so in our post we can be like, here are the even though you probably wouldn't want to be like, here are the pathways to get a refund, but just so that when people read into yours, even though your very PR worded statement doesn't actually say go get a refund, it just says it'll be okay, we don't mind if you go and get a refund, or it's possible to go get a refund. Make sure that the possibility is actually there. Solve that problem for yourself. Make sure that isn't happening before kind of getting in the panicked state of, oh no, we need to like kind of put out these fires as quick as possible without actually...
One of the other interesting things was that in America, they don't have, straight up, they don't have as good as a physical store refund policy that we do in Australia.
Yeah. Yep.
So now what you've got is PlayStation's offering refunds for digital. Xbox has come out over the last 24 hours and they've put up a refunds page to say, here's how you do it if you want to refund it digitally. And if you want to, if a store won't refund you for your physical copy, you can now email CD Projekt Red, be like, here's my receipt, blah, 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 blah. And they're apparently working out some way to refund you. It is insanity.
Yeah. They're I guess they're just out of their pocket is just coming the money for refunds that way. It's, it's funny because even then I saw the, people just getting automated messages from CG Projekt Red, and you're like, man, I wonder how long that refund process is going to take I wonder how many staff CG Projekt Red have going through it, or what kind of system they have working through this.
I don't know so VG247 writes, Polish games firm CD Projekt is facing fury from its own staff over its recently launched Cyberpunk 2077. That's according to Bloomberg, which reports that the firm's board was met with employees frustrated about the state of the game in a video meeting held yesterday. CG Projekt management faced questions about the company's reputation, unrealistic deadlines that were set for development, as well as the long periods of crunch that staff had to endure. That's on top of questions about management saying that Cyberpunk was, quote, complete and playable in January of this year, when that apparently was not the case. While another member of staff pointed out the hypocrisy in CD Projekt exploiting its staff to finish a game set in a world rife with corporate exploitation. Cyberpunk 2077 was released on December 10th after 3 delays. Last year, CG Projekt Red said it was going to finish the game without mandatory crunch, but at the start of 2020, said that staff would be, in fact, crunching to complete development. In September, the studio mandated 6-day work weeks. Joint CEO Adam Krasinski told investors that crunch on the game was, quote, not that bad, a remark he apologized staff for the following day. When you list, their year...
It's just been bad. It's just, yeah. And you know what? The scare. Oh, fucking hell. I read the Kotaku posted the transcript from the investors meeting they had recently, like the emergency one, and some of the questions they were copying from their own investors. You're like, God, you guys are fucked up so badly. Like, you guys have
their stock. You can look at their stock, and it's literally
it's just you've really, and I guess this is probably the worst way this game could have gone in terms of how excited people were, how kind of looking forward to this was. Honestly, the first time you guys, when you delayed it for like that 3-week period, honestly, you probably should have just delayed it for longer and just bit the bullet and been like, hey, we can't put this game out. Like, it's not, there's problems. And even though, the fan reaction would have been bad and it would continue the meme of Cyberpunk getting delayed, just live with that. Take the bullet there. Don't be stupid enough to have the bullet that's coming at you for releasing on December 10th on all platforms.
I think the other big takeaway I have from this story is, well, I have several takeaways. It's just continuing to be a source of wonder. But this whole thing of people going out, being like, oh, I tweeted it the other day, because everyone likes to be like, oh, to make these AAA video games, Dylan, you got to put in the hours and crunch and blah, 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 blah. It worked out so fucking well, didn't it? Really, like all those blood, sweat, and tears, and what have you got? Absolutely nothing to show for it. So, like, I understand for people who, like, so let me put it this way. People are like, you should feel sorry for the developers, but here's what I'm hoping. They've all got paid. I hope you can find jobs in a better workplace, because I really don't think this is working. And I hope everyone who worked on this game can their next project is a lot better mental health, safe wise, and doesn't turn out to be run by a bunch of incompetent people. Because really, I don't think like that's me being over the top. Projekt Red have proven with the release of this game over the last 12 months that the people running that studio are incompetent.
I can't really remember from history, but has there been much management change or team change in general between Cyberpunk and Witcher 3? Because how the fuck are they two like Witcher 3 went so well, and I guess that comes in the fact of, okay, maybe CD Projekt Red a bit more off than they could chew with this kind of idea and such a massive change in gameplay style.
I've seen a lot of people bring Witcher up, and there's a couple asterisks I'd put on that. Witcher on consoles at launch wasn't that great. It was like in the scheme of PS4 titles,
it was playable.
It was playable. It had like the amount of bugs you'd probably expect in an open world game, but it still had a lot of patches coming in the weeks following to fix it up. That game also went through a big crunch period that has been covered. So and it was also the third entry in a series. So
yes, where they've already had 2 games to build on.
To learn how they were making this. Whereas with Cyberpunk, they switched to completely new world, completely new game systems. They switched from third person to first person, etc., etc., etc. Like it was ripe for probably
even
being
just
too
like
ambitious.
The game in general, just having the game where it's like you're in first person view the entire time, and how that changes doing things. Like the fact that there are so many what would be a cutscene in normal games are playable moments where they're not taking control away from you too much. It's like, well, shit, you guys maybe were a bit too ambitious with this game, or you kind of were striving to push the bar a little bit too much here. It's a shame, and especially my personal love for CD Projekt Red, for both its writing and for its games so far. It's hard to see the company go through this. I'm not in a place to defend this company ever, like currently at all. Like I don't think there is a reason to be defending them. Make sure we are my biggest thing to communicate with audiences is just make sure you're kind of directing your anger or frustration at the right kind of directions. Don't be
as I just
searching
said,
after
blame it at the. When you go find that post where it says "Dear Gamers, we apologize," blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Look at the bottom of that. There's 6 to 9 names there. They're the people whose fault this is.
Yeah.
To put it bluntly, they are the people.
Yeah. Don't be searching for individual devs from the team or artists from the team and be like going after them, because they were just trying to make games that they were passionate about and make it as good as possible. Like it was just And
this is one it's not often, like, I like to think I'm not toxic to any degree, but this is definitely one of these cases where everyone who, especially people who purchase this game, you should be saying, hey, what the fuck? Because they did lie. They did try to hide the console version to get people to buy a product that was completely faulty, and everything they've done since then has not helped get any goodwill. So they kind of deserve, in my opinion, all of, like, the company heads, they deserve any fire that's under their ass. Like,
they should be deserved to be in this position of pressure. It also brings up another conversation. It's not just the Sony refund policy conversation. It also should be for media outlets, if you ever see an embargo like this ever again, you say fuck that and you do not take the game. No matter how big the game is, no matter how important
there's a few I saw that said we're not reviewing the game until after because they refuse to accept it. So shout out to those places.
Yeah, anybody who did that, if you're, there are your IGNs, your Game Informers, your GameSpots, whatever. You're big enough companies that if somebody says you need to follow all these rules with this kind of embargo ever again, the industry needs you to say fuck no and turn it down.
The other thing I'll say is I've seen a few places saying similar sort of comments over the past week in regards to, we're not reviewing the game now because we're going to wait until it's finished. In my opinion, that is wrong. Like, if you want to be a journalist, quote unquote, or game reviewer or whatever,
review it both times. Like, don't review it just once.
Who do you think you're serving? Like, if you're a journalist or whatever, you're supposed to be serving the people. And by the people, I mean the public, or whatever you want to call it. So your job is to tell and help communicate that if something's not running well, like Cyberpunk, you're supposed to tell people, hey, this is running like shit. You're not supposed to go, hey, we feel sorry for the devs, so we'll wait until later. Like, you're not part of the media arm. You're not part of the publishing arm. Your job isn't to feel sorry for the devs. You can feel sorry for the devs, but at the end of the day, like, if the game's shit, you're supposed to say shit. That's the gig,
You're supposed to be the people's kind of voice a little bit in terms of getting you get the opportunity, you get the luck to be given these games early before anybody else. It is the expected of you, and you should have that responsibility to report on the game that you are given, but then also report on the circumstances around it and think about the circumstances around it. Don't just kind of allow companies to push media outlets around, because that's fucking capitalism, and that's wrong. Like, we shouldn't be kind of bowing down to these giant companies or studios that have massive names just because we want their games or don't want to get blacklisted. I think you would win over much more larger fan bases if you stick by your guns. Even if you have a big company blacklist your website, fuck it. If they're going to do that, they're just asking for more trouble from everybody else, and it kind of puts a worse light on them than it does on you.
In case anyone was wondering, no, we're not doing a review because A, I didn't get sent a copy, and B, I decided I didn't care to play it. So that was, and it turns out all my decisions of not wanting to play it probably turned out probably for the better. So that's where we're at on that. Continuing on this train, though, I want to tie in this next story because this is GOG put their foot in it this week as well, which, in case you didn't know, is owned by CDPR. So continuing the trend. GameIndustry.biz wrote today, Red Candle Games announced it would release horror game Devotion on GOG. In case you don't recall, we talked about this game a couple months back. It was pulled off Steam. It was a game where it was basically it was pulled by China because it has a lot of stuff in it mocking their president, like the Winnie the Pooh jokes and this sort of stuff, which they don't like. So it was pulled off Steam because Steam has a big audience in China, and they basically got pushed over by China because they're little bitches, and they pulled the game off because they didn't want to fight China. So this morning, as of the original article says, horror game Devotion was announced to be coming to GOG almost 2 years after it was pulled, but GOG now says it won't list the game. In a tweet this morning, Red Candle said the game would appear on the store on December 18 at the same price it was originally listed on Steam for in February 2019. However, just a few hours later, GOG tweeted that it would not list Devotion on its platform, quote, after receiving many messages from gamers. Devotion was originally released on Steam in February 2019, but was almost immediately pulled by the developer following discovery of a post in-game that appeared to mock Chinese President Xi Jinping. Red Candle Games apologized for the poster, saying that it was a work of a single developer, and the rest of the studio was unaware that it had been added to the game. Blah, 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 blah. Update to the story said that Red Candle Games has issued a response via Twitter to GOG's refusal to list its game in Devotion on the storefront. Quote, though regretful, but we are willing to understand and respect GOG's decision, reads the tweet. Basically, if you go find that tweet, everyone was piling on that tweet going, are you fucking for real? Because the thing that everyone was jumping on especially was we've received many messages from gamers, and then people were like, I have literally looked through every response to use announcing the game is coming to your platform, and not a single response was like, oh, no, you shouldn't post this or whatever. It's like, it was just such a weird thing to say, like, we've received messages from the gamers. So yeah, this was just another thing. And then when they announced, when the developer, Red Candle Games, announced that it wouldn't be coming on their Twitter page, I saw lots of big industry folk replying to that, saying, I hope you can find a platform for the game. Everyone was like sharing around their other game that you can buy that's on like Steam or whatever else, and hoping people would share it around or whatever else. But just a continuing, it's fucking, it's an interesting time at CDPR. I definitely feel like, because I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do next year. Alright, so let's run through some other pieces of news. Firstly, that game, the Dead Space one, the one I was like, surely this is supposed to be set in the PUBG universe. Yeah, it turns out it actually is. So, when the former executive producer of Dead Space Visual Games' beloved sci-fi horror... Jesus Christ, what sentence? I fucked myself hard on that. When the former executive producer of Dead Space Visual Games' beloved sci-fi survival horror series went to the people who make PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, he had a simple plan. Quote, I went to them and said, I'll give you a game studio. Striking distance founder and CEO Glenn Schofield told IGN in an interview this week. And here's the game I'd like to make. He envisioned, quote, the most terrifying game on next-gen platforms when he made his pitch for the Calisto protocol last year. Schofield said PUBG Corp, now known as Krafton, gave him the okay, and have largely left him alone over the past 18 months to create the studio and develop its debut game. The Calisto protocol got revealed at the Game Awards last Thursday. It's close to a Dead Space spiritual success as you can get without a raised eyebrow from Electronic Arts' legal team, and it's a return to the sci-fi genre that Schofield says he loves. Quote, I love horror and I love sci-fi. I'll watch any horror movie no matter how bad, and with sci-fi, they get pretty bad. When I get to see a good one, it's just gravy for me. I spent the last 10 years making Call of Duty, which has been really good to me. I love making Advanced Warfare because it was a little in the future, but it's time to get back to something I really love, and sci-fi horror is where it's at for me. So, yeah, after all this, like, confusion, this game is apparently one of the PUBG Connected Universe games, which seems completely nonsensical, and it doesn't even matter because it's set on fucking Mars or some shit anyway, and it's like, what's that have anything to do with fucking PUBG? Like, what? Doesn't matter.
Like, why is it bothered to be in this universe?
Yeah, like, why are they building this universe? I don't really know. Which is weird, because the Game Awards the year prior, last year's one, they had a little teaser there for a PUBG game as well. Like it showed barely anything. It was like a camera going through a forest or some shit. Like, it looked pretty and whatever else. But so they've now announced 2 games that are apparently set in the PUBG universe, while PUBG, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, continues to look and run like shit. And I think that's because they don't. PlayerUnknown himself, I don't think he gives a fuck about that game anymore. Like, he basically made a shit ton of money off that and was like, cool, I'm going to go make, like, big studios and do cool shit now. So that is exciting. I'm pretty keen for this. It's sounding like everything I want it to be. In another piece of shitty studio news. Ubisoft has decided to do Activision to a degree and add in paid microtransactions to Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So,
oh man,
yeah, I'm just shouting this out because I don't know why they keep doing this. It's becoming sort of a regular
because they did it to Odyssey as well, right? They did the.
I can't remember if they
XP.
were in there at launch or they were added later.
I think they were added later again.
Wouldn't surprise me. I know Activision has made a habit of doing this lately, where they release a game, no microtransactions, everyone reviews it. A month later, they add microtransactions, and then anyone who would have called out the microtransactions as dodgy in their reviews has already obviously gave it a good score and whatever, and moved on with it. So, Well Played had a story up saying that there's now addition to Valhalla store that might be popping up without any notice. You can now purchase permanent XP and silver boosts that will allow you to level up and earn money faster in game. You can earn 50% more XP or silver by spending 1,000 Helix credits, which equates to about 15 Australian dollars. Or you can buy the permanent boost pack for 1,500 Helix credits, which includes a boost to both XP and silver. Due to how Helix packs are sold, you would need to purchase the medium pack, which is 2,300 Helix credits for $30 Australian, $29.95 Australian, if you wanted to nab the pack that includes both those boosts. Game Informer reached out to Ubisoft for a statement regarding this inclusion. Was told in response, quote, as more and more post-launch content becomes available, we want to give the option to players to advance their progression. Utilities allow players who lack the time to fully explore the world of Assassin's Creed Valhalla to be able to acquire the game's best gear as well as other items by accelerating their progress. For instance, these players can purchase maps that uncover some interesting locations in the world, but would still have to visit them to play and get their rewards. That's always the argument they make, is that, it's optional or whatever, but it's just a dirty practice. I hate it. Like, I hate when they do this shit. Like, it just should not even be a part of it. Like, can you imagine back on, like PS2 days prior to, like, network and all this sort of shit, like, playing games and, like, having the option to spend real money to, like, speed up XP.
And that's the thing where it's like, okay, are you like, it's where it's like, okay, does this either says a couple of things. Is it saying that the original price that you are selling this game at was not enough money for you to recoup sales, or are you just being greedy as a company and trying to get, like, just trying to milk more out of it? Because that's it's, you know, it's horrible. Like, it's just not. Even like games like this where it's like a single player experience where there's not necessarily a reason to boost anything. Like, there's not, other than people being impatient and not wanting to play the game properly. It's almost like saying as a dev team or a company, it's like saying, hey, even though we built the game to play this way, if you're not wanting to play it that way, you pay for it and it'll go by quicker. Yeah. Where like that feels like it's kind of reneging on its confidence in its own game, where it's either like it would either suggest that, okay, do you think your game is too grindy and people are going to, or have you purposely made the game more grindy so people will buy these, or what's the go? Yeah. Like, why are we doing this?
I think that was an argument I saw back for Odyssey, was that people argued they made the game harder to. Like, the level cap always just seems like you'd finish a mission and then the next mission would kind of just be out of reach enough that it seemed to always trying to encourage you to actually just spend money on XP boosts and stuff like that, which I wouldn't put past Ubisoft, to be honest. So, anyway, bad form. Let's talk about some good news. Vin Diesel. So, PC Gamer writes, we recently got our first look at Ark 2, the sequel to the popular GPU straining dino survival horror game. Sorry, I added in horror. Dino survival game. I think anytime I say survival, my brain's like horror. Survival, horror. Ark Survival Evolved. The extensive cinematic trailer for Ark 2 shown at the Game Awards was a surprise reveal for several reasons, but mostly because Vin Diesel was in it. It turns out that the Fast and Furious series star isn't just lending his looks, voice, and motion captured dino slaying moves to Ark 2. Diesel is actually working on the game itself. According to a press release sent to PC Gamer, Vin Diesel has joined Studio Wildcard as an executive producer on Ark 2 and is also serving as an executive producer on the Ark animated series coming in 2022. This dual role could explain his new title. Diesel is now Studio Wildcard's President of Creative Convergence. That's right.
Sorry, what? Is that supposed to be like the name of an up-and-coming movie he's in or some shit? Like Creative Convergence?
It's like the title they give you give like fucking Will Ferrell's character in Elf, so he knew he was a big man in the mailroom. Like like it's just some fake
like it doesn't feel like that's a legit name or anything. That's just a legit position or title, or it's something that's been conjured up for him specifically. Like it's just I don't even know what is he even going to do in the game.
I don't know, like he's like producing, man. He's a creative. He's the president of creative.
But this is the thing where you'd like to know about Arc 2. Then, okay, is Arc getting more of a storyline to it then, and more
apparently he's played thousands of hours of Arc, which I actually would believe because it's long been known that Diesel's a fucking nerd.
Like he played WoW and everything, and was
he's also had his own game studio for years now. Like he made all those Reddit games, like his studio made the Reddit games. His studio was also one of the co-developers of that Fast and Furious game that came out last year, and that one was making jokes about the Car one, which I can't remember the name of. That was shit. Whatever that was. So, like, he's had...
Stuntman. Stuntman, not... Was it? No, it wasn't Stuntman. Something it was... Some Wheelman. That's it. There we go.
Which was terrible. Alright, last news story for the week. This is a PSA from IGN. It appears that major story details have leaked for Resident Evil Village, with posts on gaming message boards, image hosts, and other social platforms spreading the news. The leak follows a recent ransomware attack on developer Capcom. Although it's currently unclear if the release of these details is directly linked to the attack, what does appear clear is that someone has acquired a development build of the game and posted a variety of screenshots and story details. These details include the game's ending, as well as plot threads for returning characters. The screenshots additionally reveal a variety of previously unknown enemy types. IGN will not be publishing any of the details, but we wanted to give you a heads up, blah, 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 blah. This is fucked because how often does a game as big and as anticipated as like a Resident Evil 8 leak months and months ahead of release?
It's kind of crazy. Like, this is almost getting as bad as, like, you know, we had previously the Last of Us Part 2 spoiler that happened, and that was only a month before.
Or maybe like a little bit less. Yeah,
a little bit less. Like, I feel like it was a little bit before. So, this is just kind of crazy because I don't know. It's one of the things where not only is, like, who likes leaks? Like, what is the positive thing about leaks? I don't, especially when it's story leaks. Like, what's the point? You've just ruined the game for people. There's no benefit to it unless you've been trying to, like, ransom as, like, leaked information or some shit back to the company.
I was trying to think if there's ever been, like, a time I've been excited something leaked. I don't know if I'd ever look up anything. I don't know, maybe if it was something I wasn't interested in or something like that, then maybe I'll just, like, look out of intrigue. But most of the time whenever stuff leaks, and half the time you don't know if it's true anyway, so it's like, well, do I want to look to see if it's like a funny fake leak or see if it's a real leak? But anyway, be careful, everyone. Resident Evil, if you care about 8, spoilers are apparently out there. I doubt I'll come across them because they're... I don't know, I'm just going to hope my Twitter's a safe place. Let's talk about a couple things we've been playing. I went back and finally finished Hades. So I'm going to spend too much talking about it because I'm going to be highly surprised if we don't end up talking much more about Hades when we're doing our wrap-up coverage towards the end of the year. But I will say that in case anyone was wondering, because I was wondering, so I sat down one night and I was like, does this game actually have a credits? So I Googled it.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a spoiler to say like what you have to do to get the credits. You have to beat the game 10 times, right? It's very specific. You have to beat it 10 times.
But it gets harder every time. Like each time.
Really.
No, but I guess it puts more stipulations on trying to beat it, though.
You don't have to use them, though. You could literally just play for it with the exact same weapon, with the easiest, like, no modifiers, like, if you want to get through it and do what you need to do. But yeah, that game actually has an ending. It was a great ending, worth seeing it through to the end. I love and appreciate how well it even makes like the fact that you can continue playing after you beat the game and the way they make it make sense. I'm like, this is very smart. I like the way this all came together. Like how I like also shout out because when I was tweeting about it, when I was trying to get to the finish, then Ash was also saw me tweet and was like, "Fuck, I should try." And then I think we both ended up getting credits for like within 24 hours of one another because even he was like, "Fuck, I never actually got credits in that game." So which is quite funny because I think it takes for most people playing the game, it'll take you the longest time to get your first finish. But then after that, you can get it. Like they start coming a lot quicker, obviously, and that's the point. But it's like such a goal to beat the game the first time, and then quote unquote beat the game, and then like, fuck this.
I think that was like that moment of beating. For me, I think, especially in terms of the gameplay style, that first time you beat the game, it's such an impressive moment of storytelling. That's building the storytelling into the mechanics of the game so impressively. Like, it's what makes me in awe of just the writing in terms of Hades in general, of just how well it's done.
And it gets. Well, I can't really say. I don't want to spoil like what the last boss fight is. Obviously, people didn't play it, but like it just gets better and better the more times you beat the game.
Yeah,
the amount of like lines and conversations that will start happening at the more like, especially once you get like halfway, you've beaten the game like 5 or 6 times, you start to get some really like kind of interesting conversations happening between the characters around that point because you're reaching a point of certain characters being like like just stop already, like
like they're just like, yes, we get it, you can do it. Like, just stop.
You've done it several times, but just stop now. But
and I think the game has an incredible way of making you feel like you're progressing, even if you're like, especially before you beat it the first time, of making you feel like you're making progression, even if you haven't kind of passed the level for a while. It keeps other things keep happening around it that really well incorporated. But I'm looking forward to talking about that in our kind of Game of the Year discussions because Hades.
I'm assuming it's going to make it somewhere or slash hoping. As of recording, we haven't done anything yet. So that's why I'm like, like saying I hope or whatever, assuming. All I know is I'm pretty sure all of us really like it. So. Also, shout outs. One thing I'll say for that, because obviously it's out on Switch, right? And this week they finally enabled the cross save stuff. And I saw someone reply on Twitter and be like, hey, if I download my save to Switch, like progress through the game a bunch of times, maybe get the true ending or whatever, and now transfer that save back to PC, will the achievements pop? And Supergiant was like, yes. So then I was like, so if they ever bring it to PlayStation,
yes,
hopefully I'll be able to pop a bunch of trophies.
You pop your trophies easily.
Imagine
that. I can't. I'd be really interested because you would kind of guess that Hades is coming to PlayStation next.
I would assume it's going to come to those consoles.
And I'm looking forward to what content is added to that game. Because I think it is... Because I think not only is it for somebody experiencing the first time, it would make it even better, but I feel like more people would be inclined to start playing it again because of the gameplay loop and everything involved.
I know. So last couple nights, I've been just watching speedruns of it when I go to bed. Because people... The fastest times people are speedrunning that game is like 6 minutes something. And watching people beat that game in like 6 minutes... Well, there's 2 types. There's a speed run on a fresh save, which is kind of shocking. It's also hilarious the fact that you can beat that game on a fresh save file.
Like your first run,
and obviously it's hard.
Like it's really impressive.
It's hard but possible. But the ones I've been watching, where people do it in like 6 minutes, is just like obviously they've got all the weapons and stuff unlocked and whatever else, and a lot of it they just know all the boons and everything. Where they'll walk into a room, like pause and be like, all right, so. Like, do I take that door or that door? Because if that door does that, like, I have a percentage of getting this, which would be good, or I could, like, do this. Like, it's really getting into that high-level play of the game and just watching them make these decisions. I've been watching. It's been super entertaining. Also, shout out to Ori, which I finished off a week, but didn't get a chance to talk about. So, obviously, I talked about it when I started playing it on my Series X, the week before the PlayStation, and the PlayStation came out, and I didn't get around to going back to it. Finally went around and got back to playing Ori and the Will of the Wisps. The game's amazing. I'm in love with it. As someone who didn't actually finish the first game, and I don't really have any regrets because I was enjoying this one a lot more than the first one. Beautiful game, plays amazing on the Series X. I know it had a lot of bugs and issues and frame rate issues at launch, but obviously I was having absolutely none of that.
Yeah.
I even did all the side quests in the game and like collected most of the collectibles because once I beat it, I was like, fuck, I just want to keep playing. So I was just like, oh, what achievements am I close to getting? Just let me go finish these missions and whatever else. It's kind of criminal the fact that that game won 0 at the Game Awards. Even like, so, I don't know.
It was one of the interesting. I think I remember the first couple of days that I got my Xbox. I went the smorgasbord route, which I feel like is what you kind of had to do on Xbox, which was just download everything. Like, I think I filled that hard drive with just stuff off Game Pass, like just downloading everything and just being like, I'll get to it eventually. And I think I played Forza first because I was like, car game, it'll look cool, it'll be nice, and it's Horizon, so really cool. And then I started playing Ori, and I was just like, it was really hard to stop myself from playing that game and jump onto something else. Like, it just felt really nice. The movement and platforming felt really nice. The puzzle solving felt really good. And, you know, man, if you couldn't think of, like, the start of the first game was already kind of a little heartbreaking and sad, and just the start of this one is like, oh fuck, okay, this is much the same as kind of giving you wholesome moments and then kind of smashing that down really quickly. It's
I was tearing up in the ending of the game, and I was like, fuck, I didn't realize I actually cared about these characters this much, but here we are. So, no, that was a fantastic game. I'm presumably going to be talking about more of that end of year coverage as well. Very quickly jumped up my list of stuff I love this year. I want to shout out to this game I've been playing on my phone the last couple of weeks, because I keep forgetting to make a note to talk about this. But I've been playing this game on my phone the last couple of weeks. It's called Bird Alone. And what it is you get a pet bird, you name it, whatever you want, and then it's more or less like you check in with it once or twice daily. Like if you set notifications on, it'll ping you and be like, hey, come talk to me. But it's kind of like a depression partner friend, to put it bluntly. Like, weirdly, like you open the game and the bird will be like, hey, how are you feeling today? And you can say like, oh, I'm good, or I'm feeling a bit down today, or something like that. And like there was 2 days where I was like, oh, I'm feeling a bit down. He's like, oh, you're having a bit of a rough week. I hope things like will turn around for you, all this sort of stuff. And then it goes from like being, hey, I'm going to be your friend through hard times, bird weird stuff, to this really often funny game where the bird will be also like, hey, let's make a poem today. Like, sure, let's make a poem. And then it'll like say like certain words or whatever, and you like can fill it in. Yes. Of course, I'm just picking like funny things. Like I made some poem where I like replaced the word to pizza, but then the bird will sing, so it'll actually just start like singing this poem. And I'll be honest, like as weird as this game sounds, like you can quote unquote be like game, it's whatever you want to be like, oh, it's a fucking app or whatever. But it's been quite fun because even the other day I checked in randomly. It was like, hey, we're growing seeds now, and like I'm starting a fucking farm with this this bird or something. I don't know. I don't even remember how I came across the game. I think it just randomly popped up, and it was like $2.99 or something, and I was like, you know what? That seems like I wonder if there's gameplay on YouTube for people to watch. There is, if people would like to look up what it actually looks like. So, it's a I'll put up for the video version. But you basically just name the bird, and you do little check-in challenges and whatever things. I obviously I like weird games like these before, because there was that one where you checked in daily to help this like couple cross the country or whatever from a couple of years ago that I really liked. It's just weird. It's funny. It's weird. It's also just helps remind me that people are making these interesting things on phone that you could not put on any other platform, because a big part of the game is obviously about it pinging you and be like, hey, like check in and talk to me today and whatever else. So in a world where the Game Awards has like the worst nominee list of mobile games, I kind of wish I'd get to a stage where stuff like this is more prominent and getting shouted out. So kind of cool, interesting. And another thing I want to shout out quickly, I've only played like 45 minutes to an hour of it, so I don't have too much to say. But everyone was going off game release this couple days ago called Monster Train, and everyone on Twitter I saw was going, Monster Train's awesome. You should check it out. And I'm like, sure, all right, I'll check it out because guess what? It's on Game Pass, so it was a easy. I'm like, sure,
easy pickups.
It's on Game Pass. I will go for it. It is a lot of fun. So Monster Train is a card builder roguelike. It's basically Slay the Spire, but on a fucking train. So if that sounds like something you'd like, if you're like, yes, I love Slay the Spire, yes, I love trains, then this is a good game for you. You play as the devils, basically, or something like that. I can't remember the exact story. Like, this train is trying to get to hell, and armies of heaven, or something along those lines, are trying to stop you. And there's 3 levels to the train, and you can basically play cards or in certain slots on the train, like monsters or spells, obviously these your typical sort of card building stuff. And then you'll lose if the angels manage to move up the 3 levels and get to the top and like destroy the thing you're trying to protect, which is like a crystal or something like that. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Super easy to get into. Like, it doesn't have like a massive tutorial, which I appreciated. The card building aspect is also easy in terms of other stuff I've played where there's not like a million mechanics. Like, so for example, when your turn starts, you have like 3 mana or whatever you want to call it, or a certain amount of mana. You can play X amount of cards from your hand, but at the end of your turn, all the cards are chucked out anyway. So you don't have a next level pick of trying to figure out what to play or keep in your hand because all your cards disappear at the end of the turn. So you just do what you need to do. And then basically between all of the battles, you either pick like a left side or a right side on the train track. And then when you head down the train track, you'll stop by things like shops, and then you can use coins that you've earned to upgrade some of your cards, or there's other things that like upgrade your cards to higher versions or something. And of course, when you die, that's all just in the run, because it's like a roguelite or whatever. So it's like you don't carry over the card upgrades to your next or whatever. But if you die, which you will obviously because it's a roguelite, eventually you'll lose, and then that's when you start to unlock different cards stronger that you can put permanently in your deck to help you get further into the game as you go. So I'm enjoying it. I'm probably going to play more of it. It's like very easy. Obviously one of those games you could very easily just pick up and go, I have 10 minutes. I'll do a quick round of Monster Train. Or you could also just easily sink hours of sitting there doing, like same as Hades. You can people are beating that game in 6 minutes, or you can literally sit there for hours and hours and hours just playing. So it was a cool thing to come out right towards the end of the year. Been getting heaps of good reviews, probably deserved. Joe, do you want to, I know we're shitting on Cyberpunk, do you want to say about stuff that you're actually enjoying? You're like 40 hours in now, you say?
I guess I'm 40 hours in now, so that's what, another 15 hours? 25 hours. No, it was around 25 hours when I checked in last week. So, as a whole, I'm in love with this game. I think I haven't really pushed into the main story that far until the last couple of days. I've mainly been doing side missions and side jobs because they are kind of so deep and so interesting to jump into. There was one mission so far that I've been like that. It's like I have a pretty good tolerance for content in games, but there was one mission that did make me go, that's fucked up, and made me feel super uncomfortable. And I think it was supposed to make me super uncomfortable. But yeah, I'm surprised that I think if there wasn't all the discourse going on about this game, people would be talking about that side mission because it was kind of very abrasive in its content. But other than that, I think everything's getting better. Like when at first my criticisms were the driving's a bit weird. Like there's bits of problems here and there. And now I'm like, driving's fine. I guess I've mainly used this the Akira bike that kind of got shown off a lot that I bought as soon as I could. And I've been using that a lot, and that's fantastic to drive around. I'm really happy with my weapons now. I'm not feeling the need to kind of swap and change things up anymore. I've kind of got my set weapons that I'm upgrading and using a fair bit. And getting to the point in the game where I'm actually able to make money, like successfully. Like I'm kind of, my money sits comfortably like 50k plus, because like the cybernetic attachments and things are quite expensive in the game. Like it was, I think, to get double jump, I had to spend like 40k just to get double jump.
Mario,
exactly. But no, I'm absolutely loving it. I think as a game, even like I'm running it on a mid-range PC with a 2080 card, and I don't really have all my settings are set to ultra. I'm not running it in 4K. It is 1080p, and I'm not having that many problems. Like there's bugs here and there, or jackets will randomly fly off characters for no reason, but there's some goofy stuff happens. But you know, I'm still in love with this game. Like for me personally, it'll definitely be in my kind of my favorites of whatever year that the game falls into, whether it be, I think it's next year's set.
If you're talking about our rules, it's eligible for.
Okay, it's eligible. Cool. All right, so it'll be this year's discussion. For me, it doesn't mean it's going to get anywhere because there's all the discourse around it, but for me, it is definitely one of my favorite games I played this week, and I think for me to feel the need to not dead to vote, but I think is it Thursday or Friday? I'm doing some stuff around the house, with family stuff, but there was one night that I didn't get a chance to play it, and I was a bit not sad, but I was like, oh, I didn't get to play any Cyberpunk. Like I didn't get a chance to do a side mission or go fuck around and go buy a new car or something, or it is a game that I'm always wanting to play and explore, and I can very well understand why people, the kind of testers, when they were clearly testing on the PC version, said they were 170 plus hours in the game without actually finishing the main story, because the game has enough content to be able to do that.
Since we've been dicking around the whole end of year stuff so much, for people who are wondering, the Explosion Network's Best of 2020 coverage kicks off the week commencing 28th of December. That's when the TV stuff happens. The week after that, the week that commences the 4th of January, is when our game awards will be going up. So you'll get all of our Explosion Network voted awards. And as usual, the Arcade Couch that posts on during that week will be, or maybe the week after, I can't decide at this stage, so to BT. But Arcade Couch around that point will be doing our personal list as well. So look forward to all of that, of course, explosion.com, all that sort of fun stuff. But we are, of course, heading towards the end of the year. In case you don't know, fucking Christmas is this week. I mean, this comes out Monday, so shout out
Friday
Christmas.
This week.
So yeah, I guess this is coming out Monday. I hope if you celebrate Christmas, hope you all have a merry Christmas, and we will be back next Monday. Once again, we're not on holidays yet, so the show
no, not just yet.
The show continues. Have a good time. Bye
guys, have a good Christmas.
Hey, don't forget you can subscribe to the show wherever you're currently listening, and you can drop a review if you can. Find more great shows like this and more content over at explosionnetwork.com, and please consider supporting us for as little as $1 over on our Ko-fi page by heading to explosionnetwork.com/support. Thanks for listening.